A pregnant woman trapped in a burning mansion on a remote Seoul road faces certain death until the man who abandoned her 9 months ago crashes through the flames to save her, discovering the child she carries is his and someone wanted them both to die. The smoke was killing her faster than the flames. Amara's lungs burned with each desperate breath, her throat raw from screaming for help that would never come. She pounded on the locked door with bleeding fists, her swollen belly pressed against the wood, her baby kicking frantically inside her as if trying to escape the same fate. The heat was unbearable. Sweat poured down her face, mixing with tears she didn't remember crying. She was going to die here. In this room. In this mansion in a country that wasn't hers, on a road no one knew existed. Her baby, their baby, would die with her. Never take a first breath. Never open his eyes. Never know his father's face. The irony was almost funny. She'd come to Seoul to find Jae-won, to tell him about their son, to see if maybe, just maybe, there was still something between them worth fighting for. And now she would die without ever seeing him again. The flames crawled closer, eating through the wallpaper, blistering the paint. The door was solid wood, deadbolt from the outside. She'd checked a dozen times, throwing her weight against it until her shoulder was bruised and aching. Nothing. She was trapped. Please, she whispered to no one, to God, to anyone who might be listening. Please don't let my baby die. Please. The baby kicked again, hard enough to hurt. She pressed her hands to her belly, protective even now, even when protection was impossible. I'm sorry, she told him through her tears. I'm so sorry I brought you here. I'm so sorry I couldn't keep you safe. The ceiling cracked. Chunks of burning plaster fell around her. She crawled toward the window, but it was too small, too high, and barred from the outside. Someone had planned this. Someone had locked her in this room and set the fire and left her to burn. Someone wanted her dead. She thought of Jae-won. His face. His smile. The way he'd held her like she was precious. The way he'd disappeared without explanation, without goodbye, leaving her alone and pregnant and broken. She'd hated him for months. Cried herself to sleep cursing his name. But beneath the hate, beneath the hurt, was love. Still. Always. The kind that didn't die even when it should. I love you, she whispered, not sure if she meant the baby or Jae-won or both. I love you so much. The smoke was so thick now she couldn't see the door anymore. Couldn't see anything. Her vision blurred. Her thoughts scattered. She slumped against the wall, one hand still on her belly, and felt consciousness slipping away like water through her fingers. This was it. The end. She closed her eyes and waited for the darkness. And then she heard it. A crash. Wood splintering. A man's voice, rough and desperate, shouting something in Korean. Footsteps. Heavy. Running. Coming closer. The door exploded inward in a shower of splinters. A figure burst through the smoke, tall and broad-shouldered, face covered with a jacket. He saw her crumpled on the floor and froze for just a second. Just long enough for their eyes to meet through the haze. Amara's heart stopped. She knew those eyes. Dark. Intense. Haunted. She'd spent 18 months memorizing every detail of that face and 9 months trying to forget it. Jae-won. The name came out as barely a whisper, lost in the roar of flames. But he heard it. She saw recognition flash across his face, saw shock and disbelief, and something that looked like horror. Then he moved, crossing the room in 2 strides, ripping the jacket off his shoulders and wrapping it around her before lifting her into his arms. Hold on, he said, his voice raw. Just hold on to me. She wanted to speak, to ask 1,000 questions, to demand answers for why he was here and how he'd found her and whether this was real or just her dying brain's last desperate hallucination. But the smoke choked the words away. So she just wrapped her arms around his neck and held on while he ran. The hallway was an inferno. Flames everywhere. Heat so intense it felt like her skin was melting. Jae-won ran through it like the fire couldn't touch him, his body curled protectively around hers, shielding her and the baby from the worst of it. The stairs groaned beneath his weight. She felt them give way, felt him stumble, but he didn't fall. He just adjusted his grip on her and kept moving. The front entrance was blocked. Collapsed. He cursed in Korean and changed direction, heading for a window at the end of the hall. He didn't slow down. Didn't hesitate. He just turned his shoulder and crashed through the glass. They fell. For a terrifying moment, they were airborne, glass and smoke and flames behind them, the ground rushing up to meet them. Then impact. Hard. Brutal. She heard something crack, his ribs, maybe, or hers, and then they were rolling, tumbling away from the burning mansion until they finally stopped in the grass 20 meters away. Amara couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. Everything hurt. The baby, God, the baby. She pressed her hands to her belly and felt movement. Still alive. Still kicking. The relief was so overwhelming she started crying. Amara. Jaewon was kneeling beside her, his hands on her face, tilting her head back. Amara, look at me. Can you breathe? She tried. Coughed instead. Violent, racking coughs that brought up smoke and bile. He rolled her onto her side, held her hair back while she vomited onto the grass. When the coughing finally subsided, when she could take a full breath without choking, she turned to look at him. He was real. Not a hallucination. Not a dream. Jaewon was here, in Seoul, kneeling in the grass with soot on his face and burns on his hands and tears, actual tears, streaming down his cheeks. You're alive, he said, and his voice broke on the words. Thank God, you're alive. Jaewon. She reached up with a shaking hand and touched his face, needing to confirm he was solid and real. How are you here? I was driving past. I saw the fire. His eyes moved down to her belly, visible now that the jacket had fallen open. His expression did something complicated, shock and realization and dawning horror all at once. Amara, you're pregnant. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Yes. How far along? 9 months. She watched understanding hit him like a physical blow. Watched him do the math. Watched him realize. It's yours, Jaewon. I'm carrying your baby. He made a sound like he'd been punched. His hand moved toward her belly, then stopped, hovering in the air like he didn't have permission to touch. Mine? Yes. We're. He couldn't seem to finish his sentence. His eyes were wild, darting between her face and her belly and back again. 9 months. You've been pregnant for 9 months. Since 2 weeks after you left. The words came out harder than she intended, edged with the bitterness she'd been carrying for months. I found out I was pregnant, and you were gone. No phone number. No address. No way to find you. Just gone. His face crumpled. Amara, don't. She tried to sit up, winced at the pain in her ribs. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Not yet. First you need to tell me what the hell I was doing in that house and who locked me in there to burn. Jaewon's expression went cold. Deadly. The gentleness disappeared, replaced by something dark and dangerous that reminded her exactly what he was. Not a businessman. Not someone safe. A killer. A criminal. A man who lived in a world of blood and violence. You were in that house? His voice was quiet. Too quiet. Someone locked you in? The door was deadbolt from the outside. I couldn't get out. I screamed until my voice gave out, but no one came. Her hands went protectively to her belly. Someone wanted me to die, Jaewon. Me and our baby. They locked us in there and set the fire and left us. His jaw clenched so hard she heard his teeth grind. This road is private. It belongs to my fiancé's family. Only they know about it. The word fiancé hit her like a slap. She'd known, of course. The private investigator had told her. Had shown her pictures of Jaewon with a beautiful Korean woman, Park Ji-eun, daughter of one of Seoul's most powerful mafia families. But hearing him say it, hearing him claim someone else while she was pregnant with his child, made something twist painfully in her chest. Your fiancé, she repeated flatly. Right. The one you left me for. I didn't leave you for her. I left you to keep you alive. His eyes met hers, fierce and desperate. My boss, the man I work for, he found out about us. About you. He gave me an ultimatum, end it or he'd have you killed. I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk you. So I left. Without telling me. Would you have let me go if I'd explained? No, the admission hurt. I would have fought. I would have stayed. Exactly. And you would have died. He reached out and cupped her face with his scarred, burned hands. I would rather have you alive and hating me than dead and in my arms. So I left. I disappeared. I broke both our hearts to save your life. Amara wanted to stay angry. Wanted to hold on to the rage and hurt that had sustained her through 9 months of pregnancy alone. But looking into his eyes, seeing the raw pain there, the grief and regret, she felt her resolve cracking. I tried to find you, she whispered. I hired an investigator. He found out about the Mafia. About your real life. About your engagement. I should have stayed away, but I couldn't. I kept thinking if I could just see you, just tell you about the baby maybe. Maybe what? Maybe you'd love me enough to fight for us instead of running. Jaewon closed his eyes like the words physically hurt. I do love you. God, Amara, I never stopped. Leaving you didn't change that. It just made everything hurt more. Then why am I here? In Seoul? In that burning house? Her voice rose, edged with hysteria. His hands dropped from her face. He pulled out his phone and made a call, speaking rapid Korean. She caught her name once. Twice. When he hung up, his expression was grimmer than before. My people are on their way. They'll take you to a private hospital, get you checked out. I want answers first. And you'll get them. But right now, you and the baby need medical attention. You inhaled a lot of smoke, Amara. You could have internal injuries. The baby could be in distress. The baby. Right. She pressed her hands to her belly again, feeling the reassuring movement beneath her palms. Still alive. But Jaewon was right, she needed to make sure. Needed to know for certain that her son was okay. Fine. Hospital first. Then answers. Then answers, he agreed. Behind them, the mansion collapsed completely, sending up a shower of sparks that lit up the night sky. Amara watched it burn and tried to process everything that had just happened. She'd almost died. Jaewon had saved her. She was in Seoul with the man who'd broken her heart, pregnant with his baby, and someone had tried to kill them both. Nothing made sense. Everything hurt. And despite 9 months of trying to hate him, despite all the pain and anger and betrayal, when Jaewon pulled her back into his arms to keep her warm while they waited for his people to arrive, she didn't pull away. She let herself be held. Let herself pretend, just for a moment, that everything might somehow be okay. Even though she knew better. Even though she knew nothing would ever be okay again. If this opening grabbed you, don't forget to like and subscribe, because what comes next will absolutely blow your mind. The car arrived 7 minutes later. Not an ambulance, Amara noticed that immediately. Just a sleek black SUV with tinted windows that screamed money and danger in equal measure. 2 men got out, both Korean, both wearing expensive suits, both moving with the controlled grace of trained fighters. They spoke to Jaewon in rapid Korean. She caught enough to understand they were asking about her, about the fire, about what had happened. Jaewon's responses were clipped and cold, his whole demeanor changing from the gentle man who'd held her to something harder. Deadlier. This was the real Jaewon kind. Mafia boss. Criminal. The man her private investigator had warned her about. One of the men approached her carefully, hands visible, movements slow. Miss Amara? I'm Min-suk. I work with Jaewon. We're going to take you to a hospital now. Make sure you and the baby are okay. His English was perfect, barely accented. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Min-suk helped her to her feet, supporting her when her legs threatened to give out. Jaewon was there immediately, taking her weight, lifting her again despite his obvious injuries. I can walk, she protested weakly. You can barely stand. He carried her to the SUV and settled her in the back seat with a gentleness that contradicted everything about his appearance. He climbed in beside her while Min-suk took the driver's seat. The other man stayed behind, phone already out, presumably calling in whatever cleanup crew handled burning mansions and attempted murders in the Korean mafia world. As they drove away from the fire, Amara watched Jaewon's profile in the darkness. His jaw was tight. His hands were clenched into fists on his thighs. He was furious. She could feel it radiating off him in waves, but he was holding it together. For her. For the baby. Who knew I was in that house? She asked quietly. Jaewon's jaw tightened further. That's what I intend to find out. But you have suspicions. Yes. Tell me. He turned to look at her, and the coldness in his eyes made her shiver. This road is private property. The Park family owns it. They own the mansion. Only family members and their closest associates even know this road exists. No one uses it except us. Us meaning you and your fiancé's family. Yes. He didn't flinch from the word this time. I was driving back from a business meeting. I take this road because it's faster than the main highway. Completely by chance. If I'd left 5 minutes earlier or later, if I'd taken a different route, I would be dead. She finished the thought he couldn't. You weren't supposed to find me. No. Whoever did this chose that location specifically because no one would find you. This road gets used maybe once or twice a week. By the time anyone discovered the fire, it would be too late. Just another accidental house fire. No investigation. No questions. Except you happened to drive by. Except I happened to drive by. His hand moved toward hers, then stopped, hovering in the space between them. Amara, I need you to tell me everything. Everything you remember. How you got to Seoul, who brought you to that house, what they told you. Every detail matters. She took a shaky breath, trying to organize her scattered memories. I was in New York. I'd hired this private investigator, Marcus Chin, to find information about you. He did. Too much, maybe. He told me about the Korean Mafia, about your real identity, about Park Ji-yoon and the engagement. He showed me pictures. Jaewon's expression darkened, but he didn't interrupt. I should have let it go. Should have just accepted that you were gone and moved on. But I couldn't. The baby, she pressed her hand to her belly. I kept thinking our son deserved to know his father. Deserved at least the chance. So I kept digging. Kept asking questions. And then I started noticing things. What things? Men watching my apartment. The same car parked outside for days. Someone going through my mail. I got paranoid, thought maybe I was imagining it, but Marcus confirmed it. Said I was being surveilled. He told me to stop looking, that I was drawing dangerous attention, but I didn't listen. Of course you didn't, Jaewon muttered. Stubborn. I prefer determined. She managed a weak smile that faded quickly. 3 weeks ago, Marcus stopped answering my calls. His office was closed. His assistant said he'd left town suddenly, didn't say when he'd be back. I went to his apartment. It was empty. Cleaned out. Like he'd never existed. Jaewon's expression went very still. He disappeared. Yes. And I knew it was because of me. Because of the questions I'd asked him to pursue. So I panicked. I bought a plane ticket to Seoul. Stupid, I know, but I thought if I could just find you, warn you, maybe figure out what was happening. You flew to Seoul. Alone. 9 months pregnant. I was desperate. Her voice cracked. And scared. And I missed you so much I couldn't think straight. I landed at Incheon Airport 4 days ago. I got through customs, collected my bag, and then these men approached me. Korean men in suits. They knew my name. They said they were there to help me, that I was in danger, that someone important had sent them to keep me safe. Did they say who? No. I asked, but they just kept saying I'd understand soon, that everything would be explained. They were so calm, so professional. They had a car waiting. I was exhausted from the flight, and honestly, I was scared enough that protection sounded good. So I went with them. Jaewon closed his eyes briefly, and she saw his jaw clench. You went with them. I didn't know what else to do. I was alone in a foreign country, pregnant, being told I was in danger. They seemed legitimate. She stopped remembering. They had a photo. Of me and you. From New York. One I'd never seen before. They showed it to me like proof they knew you, like proof they were really there to help. What happened after you got in the car? We drove for a long time. Out of the city. Into the mountains. I started getting nervous, asked where we were going. They said a safe house. Somewhere secure. Then one of them offered me water. I was thirsty, so I drank it, and she pressed her fingers to her temples. Everything gets fuzzy after that. I remember arriving at the mansion, being shown to a room. They said to rest, that someone would explain everything in the morning. I was so tired I just collapsed on the bed. And then I woke up and it was nighttime and the house was on fire and the door was locked. They drugged you. Jaewon's voice was flat, deadly. Kept you unconscious for days, then locked you in that room to die. But why? I don't understand. I'm nobody. I don't know anything important. Why would anyone want me dead? Jaewon looked at her belly, and something painful flickered across his face. Because of the baby. Because of what he represents. I don't understand. You're carrying my child. My son. In my world, that means something. Bloodlines matter. Inheritance matters. A child, even an illegitimate one, could complicate things. Could challenge things. Could threaten existing power structures. Understanding dawned slowly, horribly. Your engagement. Your fiancé's family. They found out about me, about the baby, and saw you as a threat that needed to be eliminated. He turned to look out the window, his profile hard in the passing streetlights. The Parks have been planning this marriage for 2 years. It's not about love or happiness. It's about power. My organization merged with theirs creates the largest criminal enterprise in South Korea. We'd be untouchable. But if I have a child with someone else, especially a son, it changes the calculation. How? Because Korean law recognizes all children, legitimate or not, as heirs. If something happened to me, my son would inherit my position, my territory, my wealth. The Parks can't have that. They need my legacy tied to their family, not scattered to some American woman and her half-Korean baby. The clinical way he said it made Amara's blood run cold. So they decided to kill me. It's the logical move. He said it without emotion, like he was discussing business strategy instead of murder. Remove you and the baby, clear the path for the marriage and their plans. Clean. Efficient. No complications. Jesus, Jaewon. You're talking about murdering a pregnant woman like it's a business decision. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's how they think. He finally looked at her again, and she saw emotion crack through his cold mask. I'm saying it's the world I live in. The world I tried to protect you from by leaving. And now you're here, in the middle of it, and his voice broke. I almost lost you tonight. Both of you. If I'd been 5 minutes later. But you weren't. She reached out and took his hand, lacing her fingers through his despite everything, despite the anger and hurt and betrayal. You saved us. You found us. By pure chance. Luck. I shouldn't have been on that road at that time. The meeting ran late. I took the scenic route because I was drunk and didn't want to go home. Pure accident that I was there at all. Or fate. He laughed bitterly. I don't believe in fate. Maybe you should start. They drove in silence for a while. Amara watched the city lights of Seoul grow brighter as they descended from the mountains. It was beautiful, this city. All neon and glass and endless motion. She'd imagined coming here so many times, imagined finding Jaewon and telling him about the baby and somehow, impossibly, finding their way back to each other. She'd never imagined it like this. Fire and murder and danger around every corner. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now we get you to the hospital. Make sure you and the baby are healthy. Then he paused. Then I find out exactly who ordered this hit. And I make them pay. And after that? After that, I keep you safe. Both of you. Whatever it takes. Even if it means going against your fiancé's family? Against your own organization. His eyes met hers, and they were black fire. Especially then. I told you 9 months ago that leaving you was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I meant it. I won't make that mistake again. I don't care who I have to fight or what I have to burn down. You're mine. The baby is mine. And I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Should have made her pull away and demand he take her to the airport so she could get the hell out of this nightmare. But instead, it made something warm unfold in her chest. Relief. Safety. The feeling of finally not being alone anymore. I'm still angry at you, she said. I know. I don't forgive you for leaving. I don't expect you to. But she stopped, swallowed hard. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you found me. I'm glad you still. Love you. He finished when she couldn't. I never stopped, Amara. Not for a single day. Leaving you nearly destroyed me. Living without you has been hell. But I thought it was worth it if it kept you alive. And now? Now I realize there's no keeping you safe by staying away. They found you anyway. Tried to kill you anyway. So fuck it. Fuck the rules and the politics and everyone who thinks they can tell me how to live my life. You're here, and I'm keeping you here, and anyone who tries to take you from me again dies screaming. The violence in his words should have terrified her. Instead, after 9 months of being alone and scared and pregnant, after tonight's brush with death, it felt like the safest thing anyone had ever said to her. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll stay. I'll let you protect us. But J1, she waited until he looked at her. No more lies. No more secrets. If we're doing this, if we're really trying to make this work, I need complete honesty. About everything. Your world, your work, the dangers, all of it. He hesitated. She saw him weighing his options, trying to decide how much truth she could handle. Finally, he nodded. Complete honesty. Even the parts you won't like. Especially those parts. Deal. They shook on it, formal and almost absurd given the circumstances. But it felt important. Like drawing a line in the sand. Before and after. The old relationship built on lies and omissions, and this new thing they were building on brutal truth. The SUV pulled up to a sleek, modern building that looked nothing like a hospital. More like an expensive hotel or corporate headquarters. Minsuk parked in an underground garage and came around to open Amara's door. This is the hospital, she asked doubtfully. Private medical facility, J1 explained, helping her out of the car. Used by people who value discretion. No records, no questions, no connection to any official systems. You were never here. Is that legal? Probably not. But it's safe, and the doctors are excellent. That's what matters right now. He was right, she supposed. Legal didn't matter much when someone had just tried to burn you alive. She let him guide her inside, through corridors that smelled like antiseptic and money, into a private room that was more luxury suite than hospital ward. A doctor was waiting, older Korean man with kind eyes and steady hands. He spoke English well enough to examine her, check her vitals, listen to the baby's heartbeat with equipment that looked like it cost more than her car. The baby is fine, he said after what felt like hours of tests. Heartbeat strong. No signs of distress. You were very lucky, miss, he paused, clearly not sure what name to use. Amara, she said. Just Amara. Miss Amara. You inhaled a significant amount of smoke. Your oxygen levels are low, and you have minor burns on your hands and arms. I want to keep you overnight for observation, make sure there are no complications. I'll stay with her, J1 said immediately. It wasn't a question. The doctor nodded like he'd expected nothing less. Of course. I'll have a bed brought in. He administered oxygen, bandaged her burns, gave her something for the pain that he swore was safe for the baby. Then he left them alone. Amara lay back on the hospital bed, exhausted beyond words. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind bone-deep weariness and pain. Everything hurt. Her throat, her lungs, her hands, her heart. J1 pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. He didn't try to touch her, didn't crowd her space. Just sat there, present and solid and real. Get some rest, he said quietly. I'll be right here. Promise? The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Promise you'll stay. Promise you won't leave again. Promise this is real. I promise, he said. I'm not going anywhere. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever. You're stuck with me now, Amara. For better or worse. Worse, probably, she murmured, already feeling sleep pull at her. Given your line of work. Probably, he agreed. But I'll make it worth it. I swear. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that this time would be different, that he'd really fight for them instead of running. But trust was hard after 9 months of abandonment. Hard after tonight's terror. Still, she was too tired to hold on to doubt right now. Too tired to do anything but close her eyes and let herself drift, secure in the knowledge that for the first time since he'd left, J1 was here. Watching over her. protecting her and their son. She'd worry about everything else tomorrow. Tonight, survival was enough. As she fell asleep, she felt his hand carefully, gently take hers. Felt his thumb stroke over her knuckles. Felt his warmth beside her in the darkness. And for the first time in 9 months, she felt something almost like hope. Amara awoke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the steady beep of medical monitors. For a disorienting moment, she didn't remember where she was or why everything hurt. Then it all came rushing back, the fire, the locked door, Jae-won crashing through the smoke to save her. She turned her head and found him exactly where he'd promised to be. Slumped in the chair beside her bed, still wearing his smoke-stained clothes, one hand loosely holding hers even in sleep. He looked exhausted, older than she remembered. There were new lines around his eyes, gray threading through his black hair that hadn't been there 9 months ago. Leaving her had aged him. The thought gave her a bitter sort of satisfaction. As if sensing her gaze, his eyes opened. Alert immediately, no grogginess or confusion. He straightened in the chair, his grip on her hand tightening slightly. "How are you feeling?" His voice was rough with sleep. "Like I got dragged through a burning building." She tried to sit up, winced at the protest from her ribs. "How long was I out?" 6 hours. "The doctor checked on you twice. Everything looks good." His eyes dropped to her belly. "The baby's heartbeat is strong." She hesitated. "Can I hear it?" The heartbeat. Jae-won stood immediately and found the portable monitor the doctor had left. He brought it over, his hands surprisingly gentle as he helped her adjust the hospital gown. When he pressed the sensor to her belly, the room filled with the rapid thump-thump-thump of their son's heart. She watched Jae-won's face transform. The hard edges softened. His eyes went bright with something that looked like wonder. He kept the sensor there longer than necessary, just listening, his free hand hovering near her belly like he wanted to touch, but wasn't sure he had permission. "You can touch," she said softly. "He's yours too." His hand settled on her belly, warm and solid. The baby kicked in response, and Jae-won's breath caught. "He's strong. Takes after his father, apparently." She covered his hand with hers. "Do you want to know what I was going to name him?" "What?" "Jean. It means precious." "I thought," her voice cracked. "I thought even if you never knew about him, even if he never met you, he should have a name that connected him to his heritage. To you." Jae-won closed his eyes, and she saw moisture on his lashes. "Jean," he repeated. "It's perfect." They stayed like that for a long moment, both touching her belly, feeling their son move between them. It felt fragile and precious, this moment of peace before the storm they both knew was coming. The door opened. Min-suk entered carrying a tablet and looking grim. He saw them together and hesitated, but Jae-won gestured him forward. "Report," Jae-won said, his voice shifting back to that cold, authoritative tone. Min-suk glanced at Amara uncertainly. Jae-won shook his head. "She stays. She hears everything. No more secrets." "Hyungnim, are you sure?" "I'm sure." "Talk." Min-suk took a breath and opened the tablet. "We pulled security footage from the mansion and the surrounding area. The fire was definitely arson. Accelerant poured throughout the east wing. The door to Miss Amara's room was locked from the outside approximately 15 minutes before the fire started." "Did you get an image of who did it?" "Yes." Min-suk turned the tablet to show them. The footage was grainy, shot from a distance, but clear enough to see a figure in dark clothes moving through the mansion. Female, based on the build and movement. Face covered. She knew where the cameras were. Avoided most of them. "But we caught her here at the gate, arriving in a vehicle registered to." "Let me guess," Jae-won said flatly. "The Park family." "Yes, Hyungnim. Registered to Park Ji-un specifically." Silence. Heavy and dangerous. Amara watched Jae-won's expression go blank, that terrifying emptiness that meant violence was simmering just beneath the surface. "Can you identify her?" he asked. "Not definitively from the footage. But the timing, the vehicle, the knowledge of the property," Min-suk hesitated. "It points to someone with intimate access to Park family resources." "Park Ji-un," Amara said quietly. "Your fiancé." Jae-won's jaw clenched. "We need proof. Hard proof." Not circumstantial evidence. We're working on it. I have people questioning the household staff, checking phone records, tracking movements. But Hyungnim, there's something else. Minsuk swiped to a different screen. We found the private investigator. Marcus Chin. Amara sat up straighter, ignoring the pain. Is he alive? Yes. Hiding in a hotel in Busan under a false name. We convinced him to talk. Minsuk's expression suggested the convincing hadn't been gentle. He confirmed that he was surveilling you on behalf of a client. A Korean client who paid very well for detailed information about your movements, your pregnancy, everything. Who is the client? He doesn't know. All contact was through intermediaries, payments in cryptocurrency. But he said the client became very interested when he reported that you'd booked a flight to Seoul. That's when the surveillance intensified. And that's when he got scared and ran. Smart man, J1 muttered. What else? The men who picked up Miss Amara at the airport weren't ours. We've identified them as freelance contractors. Muscle for hire. They've worked for various organizations, including the parks. We're trying to locate them now, but they're probably already dead, J1 finished. Loose ends tied up. Most likely. Amara felt sick. This was real. This was really happening. Someone had orchestrated her kidnapping, her imprisonment, her attempted murder, and now they were cleaning up the evidence. So we have nothing. No proof. Just suspicions and circumstantial evidence. We have enough to know the truth, J1 said. The parks are behind this. Whether it was Jiun acting alone or her father ordering it, they wanted you dead. Knowing and proving are different things. In my world, knowing is enough. He stood, already moving toward the door. Minsuk, arrange a meeting with Park Sung-ho. Today. Private. Just him and me. Hyungnim, that's not wise. If they tried to kill Miss Amara once, they'll try again. I know. Which is why we need to handle this now, directly, before they can regroup. He turned back to Amara. You'll stay here. Guards outside your door. No one gets in except medical staff. I personally approve. Wait. She swung her legs off the bed, ignoring the dizziness. You're going to confront them? Alone. Not alone. I'll have people with me. That's not what I meant. J1, if they're willing to murder a pregnant woman, what do you think they'll do to you if you threaten their plans? Let them try. His voice was ice. I've survived worse. Have you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're about to walk into a trap. It's not a trap if I know it's coming. He crossed back to her, cupped her face in his hands. Amara, I need to do this. I need to end this threat before they can hurt you again. Before our son is born into a world where his mother's life is constantly in danger. And what about his father's life? What happens to us if you die trying to protect us? The question hung in the air between them. She saw him struggling with the answer, with the reality that his death would leave her just as alone and vulnerable as his abandonment had. I won't die, he said finally. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll do everything in my power to come back to you. To both of you. He pressed his forehead to hers. Trust me. Please. I don't know if I can. Trust you, I mean. You left me once already. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making up for that. But right now, I need you to believe that I will come back. That I won't leave you again. She wanted to. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt in a single night, even a night as intense as the one they'd just survived. Still, she nodded. What choice did she have? Okay, go. Do what you need to do. But J1, she grabbed his shirt, pulled him close. If you die and leave me alone again, I will find a way to bring you back just so I can kill you myself. He smiled, actually smiled, and for a moment she saw the man she'd fallen in love with. Deal. He kissed her then. Hard and desperate and full of all the things they hadn't said yet. When he pulled away, they were both breathing hard. I'll be back before nightfall, he promised. And when I come back, this will be over. You and Jean will be safe. And us? Will we be safe? Together. Together, he confirmed. If you'll have me. If you can forgive me enough to try. I haven't decided yet. Fair enough. He kissed her once more, softer this time. But I'll spend however long it takes convincing you. Then he was gone, Min-suk following, leaving her alone in the private hospital room with guards outside her door and 1,000 fears circling in her mind. She pressed her hands to her belly, feeling Jean move beneath her palms. "Your father is either very brave or very stupid," she told him. "I haven't decided which yet." Jean kicked in response, and despite everything, she smiled. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think Amara should forgive Jaewon? And what do you think happens when he confronts the Parks? This story is about to explode, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next. The Park family compound was exactly what Amara would have imagined if she'd had time to imagine such things. Massive. Fortified. Beautiful in the way that screamed old money and older power. Jaewon stood outside the main gate, flanked by 6 of his best men, and tried to keep his rage under control. Someone in this house had tried to kill Amara. Tried to kill his son. And he was going to find out who and make them pay in blood. The gates opened. Not welcoming, exactly, but not hostile either. Calculated neutrality. He was expected, then. Good. That meant they knew he knew, and this conversation could skip the pleasantries and get straight to the throat-cutting. Park Sung-ho waited in his office, a massive room decorated in traditional Korean style, but with modern touches that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. The man himself sat behind an antique desk, tea already poured, expression calm. Too calm. The calm of someone who'd been expecting this confrontation and had prepared for it. Jaewon. Sung-ho gestured to the chair across from him. Please sit. I'll stand. As you wish. Sung-ho sipped his tea unruffled. I assume this is about the fire. No pretense then. No games. Jaewon appreciated that at least. You assume correctly. A terrible tragedy. I understand the mansion was a complete loss. But thankfully no one was hurt. The lie was delivered so smoothly, so calmly, that it took everything in Jaewon not to reach across the desk and break the man's neck. No one was hurt, he repeated flatly. Is that what you're telling me? Is there something you'd like to say, Jaewon? There was a woman in that house. Locked in a room in the East Wing. Someone poured accelerant throughout the building, locked her in, and set it on fire. She barely escaped with her life. Sung-ho's expression didn't change. I know nothing about any woman. The mansion has been empty for weeks. If someone was using it without permission, that's news to me. Bullshit. Careful. The word was soft, but edged with steel. You're in my home. Show some respect. Respect? Jaewon laughed, harsh and bitter. You want to talk about respect? The woman in that house was pregnant. 9 months pregnant. With my child. That got a reaction. Sung-ho's eyes widened slightly, his cup freezing halfway to his lips. Your child. Yes. My son. And someone tried to burn him alive before he could even be born. Sung-ho set down his cup carefully. I see. And you think I had something to do with this? I think someone in your family did. I think they found out about Amara, about the baby, and decided to eliminate a complication to our marriage alliance. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Can you prove it? And there was the crux of it. Jaewon had suspicions, circumstantial evidence, footage that pointed toward the Parks, but didn't definitively prove anything. In a court of law, he had nothing. But they weren't in a court of law. They were in the Korean underworld, where proof was less important than power. I don't need proof, Jaewon said quietly. I know it was you. Or your daughter. Or someone acting on your orders. And I'm here to tell you that if anything happens to Amara or my son, I will burn your entire family to the ground. Sung-ho stood slowly. He was older than Jaewon, graying, but still powerfully built. Still dangerous. You're threatening me. In my own home. I'm making you a promise. You forget yourself. Sung-ho's voice dropped to something cold and lethal. You forget who you are, what you owe, the position you hold. You work for the king. You're engaged to my daughter. You have obligations. I have a son, Jaewon interrupted. Nothing else matters. Everything else matters. Your position, your alliances, your future. You think you can just walk away from your engagement because some American woman got pregnant? You think the king will allow that? I think the king will understand that attacking my family crosses a line. What family? Sung-ho's laugh was ugly. A bastard child with a foreigner? That's not family, Jaewon. That's a mistake. An inconvenience. One that should have been dealt with quietly. The admission hung in the air. Not direct, not explicit, but clear enough. Sung-ho knew. Had known. Maybe even ordered it. Jaewon's hand went to the gun tucked at his back. 6 of his men moved simultaneously, weapons appearing. Sung-ho didn't flinch. His own guards emerged from the shadows, outnumbering Jaewon's people 2-1. Standoff. You want to start a war? Sung-ho asked calmly. Over a woman and an unborn child? Think carefully, Jaewon. Think about what you're throwing away. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing what matters. Then you're a fool. Maybe. But I'm a fool who keeps his promises. Jaewon pulled his hand away from his gun, raised both hands in apparent surrender. I'm calling off the engagement. You can't. I just did. Consider it official. I won't marry your daughter. I won't merge our organizations. Whatever alliance you thought you had with me is over. Sung-ho's face went purple with rage. The king won't allow this. The king doesn't own me. He owns everyone. Including you. Then let him tell me himself. Until then, stay away from Amara. Stay away from my son. Or I will kill everyone in this compound and salt the earth where your family stood. Jaewon turned to leave. He made it 3 steps before Sung-ho spoke again, his voice dripping with venom. You really think you can protect her? That you can keep her safe in our world? Sung-ho laughed, cold and mocking. You're deluding yourself. The moment the king finds out about this bastard child, he'll order both of them eliminated. And you know it. Jaewon stopped, but didn't turn around. Then I'll deal with the king too. You'll deal with Sung-ho's voice rose in disbelief. Do you hear yourself? You're talking about going against the most powerful man in Korea. The man who made you. The man who owns your life. He doesn't own my son's life. And he sure as hell doesn't own hers. This is suicide. Maybe. Jaewon finally turned to face him. But it's my choice. Something I haven't had in a very long time. Goodbye, Park Sung-ho. Stay away from my family, or the next time we meet, only one of us walks away. He left then, his men forming a protective circle around him as they exited the compound. No one fired. No one attacked. But Jaewon felt the weight of every eye on his back, felt the promise of violence hovering in the air like smoke. Min-suk waited until they were in the car and moving before he spoke. Hyungnim, that was necessary. It was a declaration of war. Good. Better they know where I stand. Better they understand that coming after Amara or Jean means dying. And when the king hears about this? Jaewon stared out the window at Seoul passing by. The city he'd bled for. Killed for. Sacrificed everything for, including his own happiness. Then we'll handle that too. We can't fight the king. No one can. We'll see. Min-suk fell silent, and Jaewon knew what he was thinking. That his boss had lost his mind. That love had made him reckless. That this would end badly for everyone involved. Maybe Min-suk was right. Probably he was right. But Jaewon had spent 9 months in hell living without Amara, and he'd be damned if he'd go back to that darkness now that he had a chance at redemption. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Yes, Jaewon Kong. The voice was female, young, speaking Korean with a cultured Seoul accent. We need to talk. Who is this? Park Ji-yoon. Your fiancé. Or ex-fiancé, I suppose, after that little scene with my father. Jaewon's hand tightened on the phone. I have nothing to say to you. But I have something to say to you. Something you need to hear. Meet me. Alone. Tonight. The cafe near Namsan Tower. You know the one. Why would I meet you anywhere? Because I'm the one who locked her in that room. Ji-yoon's voice was eerily calm. I'm the one who set the fire. And I think you deserve to know why. The admission stunned him into silence. She'd just confessed. Openly. Either she was incredibly stupid or she had a plan. Knowing Ji-yoon, it was the latter. You're confessing to attempted murder, he said slowly. I'm confessing to protecting what's mine. Big difference. She paused. Will you meet me or not? Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. That Ji-yoon was working with her father, setting him up for an ambush. But he needed to know. Needed to understand what he was really dealing with. And maybe, just maybe, he could end this tonight without more bloodshed. Fine. 9 o'clock. Come alone or I walk. I could say the same to you. I'll have people watching. They won't interfere unless you try something. Fair enough. She hung up. Jae-won stared at the phone for a long moment. Min-suk was watching him in the rearview mirror, concerned. That was Park Ji-yoon, Jae-won said. She wants to meet. Tonight. It's a trap. Probably. You're going anyway. Yes. Hyungnim. I need to hear what she has to say. I need to understand why she tried to kill Amara. Maybe there's a way to end this without open war. Or maybe she kills you and solves all her family's problems at once. She won't kill me. Not yet, anyway. She's too smart for that. She knows my death would trigger a response from my organization that her family couldn't survive. Jae-won leaned back in his seat. Take me back to the hospital. I need to see Amara first. And tell her what? That you're meeting with the woman who tried to murder her. Yes. No more secrets, remember? I promised her honesty. Min-suk sighed but changed direction, heading back toward the private medical facility. You're going to give that woman a heart attack. Better a heart attack than a knife in the back because I kept things from her. They drove in silence for a while. Jae-won's mind raced, trying to anticipate every angle of tonight's meeting. What did Ji-yoon want? Why confess so openly? What game was she playing? His phone buzzed again. Different number. This one he recognized, his direct line to the king. His blood went cold. He answered. Yes. My office. Tomorrow morning. 8 sharp. The king's voice was ice. We need to discuss your future. The line went dead. Jae-won closed his eyes. So Sung-ho had already reported to the king. Faster than he'd expected, but not surprising. The alliance between their families was worth billions. Of course the king would want to salvage it. The king? Min-suk asked quietly. Yes. Wants to see me tomorrow. That's not good. No. It's really not. They reached the hospital. Jae-won took the private elevator up to Amara's floor, nodded to the guards he'd posted outside her door, and entered. She was awake, sitting up in bed, eating what looked like kimchi jjigae and rice. She looked better than she had this morning, more color in her face, less pain in her movements. She looked up when he entered, and her expression cycled through relief and wariness. You're alive, she said. I'm alive. And Park Sung-ho? Also alive. Unfortunately. She set down her chopsticks. Tell me what happened. So he did. Everything. The confrontation, the threats, the broken engagement, Sung-ho's barely veiled confession. He watched her face as he talked, saw anger and fear and something that might have been satisfaction when he told her he'd called off the wedding. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, your fiancé called you. Ex-fiancé. And yes. How did you? I can read your face. Something else happened after you left Park Sung-ho. Something you're dreading telling me. He should have known better than to try hiding anything from her. Amara had always been able to see through him, even when he was at his most carefully controlled. Ji-yoon called. She wants to meet. Tonight. She confessed to setting the fire. Amara's hands went to her belly, protective and instinctive. She confessed. Yes. Said she wanted to explain why she did it. And you're going to meet her. Yes. Even though it's obviously a trap. I don't think she'll try to kill me. Not yet. She's too strategic for that. But yes, it could be dangerous. Amara stared at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she threw back the covers and started to get out of bed. What are you doing? Jae-won moved to stop her. Coming with you. Absolutely not. She tried to kill me, Jae-won. Me and our baby. I deserve to hear her explanation just as much as you do. Amara, you're 9 months pregnant and recovering from smoke inhalation. You're not going anywhere near Ji-yoon. You don't get to make that decision for me. Yes, I do. Not because I'm trying to control you, but because I'm trying to keep you alive. He guided her back to the bed, gentle but firm. Please, let me handle this. Let me protect you. I don't need protection. I need answers. And you'll get them. After I meet with Ji-yoon, I'll tell you everything she says. Word for word. I promise. She searched his face, looking for the lie, the deception, the secret agenda. He let her look, kept his expression open and honest. Finally, she sighed and sat back down on the bed. Fine. Go meet your psychotic ex-fiancé. But Jaewon, she grabbed his hand, laced their fingers together. If she kills you, I'm going to be very upset. Noted. I mean it. I just got you back. I'm not ready to lose you again. The admission cost her. He could see it in the way she wouldn't quite meet his eyes, in the tightness of her grip on his hand. Amara was strong, fiercely independent, used to handling everything alone. Admitting she needed him, wanted him, was harder for her than facing down a burning building. You're not going to lose me, he said softly. He cupped her face, made her look at him. I promise. I will come back to you. Always. You can't promise that. Not in your world. I can promise that I'll fight like hell to make it true. She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. I'm scared, Jaewon. I'm scared of what's going to happen. To us. To Jean. This world you live in, it's so violent, so dangerous. I don't know if I can raise a child in it. You won't have to. I'm getting out. Her eyes snapped open. What? I'm getting out. Of the life, the organization, all of it. After tonight, after I deal with Jiun and the king and anyone else who threatens you, I'm walking away. We'll leave Seoul, go somewhere safe, somewhere they can't reach us. Build a new life. A normal life. Jaewon, you can't just walk away from the Korean Mafia. They'll never let you go. They will if I give them no other choice. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I told you, nothing matters except you and Jean. Not my position, not my power, not my obligations. Just you. Just our family. You're insane. Probably. But I'm insane about you, so that seems appropriate. Despite everything, she smiled. Actually smiled. It was small and fragile and didn't quite reach her eyes, but it was there. What time is your meeting with Jiun? 9 o'clock. Then you have, she checked the clock on the wall. 4 hours. Stay with me until you have to leave. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. He climbed onto the hospital bed beside her, careful of her injuries and the baby. She settled against his chest, her head on his shoulder, one hand on her belly and the other gripping his shirt like she was afraid he'd disappear if she let go. They stayed like that for a long time, not talking, just being together. Jaewon felt Jean moving between them, felt the steady rhythm of Amara's breathing, and tried to memorize this moment. This peace. This perfect, fragile bubble of happiness before everything went to hell. Because it would go to hell. He knew that. Meetings with Jiun never went smoothly. Tomorrow's meeting with the king would be worse. And somewhere out there, enemies were plotting and planning and waiting for their chance to strike. But right now, in this moment, he had everything that mattered. And he would burn the world to keep it. Tell me about Jean, he said quietly. What was the pregnancy like? What did I miss? Amara was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. I felt him move for the first time at 18 weeks. It was like butterflies at first. Then stronger. Like he was saying hello. I cried for an hour because you weren't there to feel it. Guilt twisted in his chest. I'm sorry. I know. I'm still telling you. She took his hand and placed it on her belly. He's most active at night. Kicks like a soccer player. The doctor says he's big for his gestational age. Probably going to be tall like you. Does he have a favorite position that makes you uncomfortable? His feet are always in my ribs. Makes it hard to breathe sometimes. And he likes to press on my bladder at the most inconvenient times. Jaewon smiled despite himself. Already causing trouble. Definitely my son. I craved kimchi the whole pregnancy. Weird, right? I'd never even tried it before I met you, and suddenly I couldn't get enough. I think Jean knew somehow. Knew about his Korean heritage. Or he just has good taste. She laughed softly. Maybe. I also watched a lot of K-dramas. Tried to learn some Korean. She stopped, swallowed hard. I wanted to be able to teach him about where he came from. About you. Even if you weren't there. I'm here now. And I'm going to be here for everything. First words, first steps, first day of school. All of it. If we survive the next few days. We will. I promise. They fell into comfortable silence again. Jaewon watched the sun set through the window, painting Seoul in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful and deadly, like everything in this city. Like everything in his life. His phone alarm went off at 8:30. Time to go. Amara felt him tense and tightened her grip on his shirt. Be careful. Always. Come back to me. Always, he repeated. He kissed her, long and deep and desperate. I love you, Amara. I never stopped. I never will. I love you too, she whispered against his lips. Even though you're an idiot for leaving in the first place and a bigger idiot for meeting with a woman who tried to kill me. Fair assessment. He forced himself to pull away, to stand up, to walk toward the door. Every step felt like tearing off a piece of himself. At the door, he looked back. Amara was sitting up in bed, one hand on her belly, tears streaming down her face even though she was trying to smile. See you soon, he said. You better. Then he was gone, walking down the hallway, into the elevator, out to where Min-suk waited with the car. His second-in-command took one look at his face and didn't say anything. Just drove. The cafe near Namsan Tower was quiet at this hour. Upscale. The kind of place where rich people met to discuss things that would never appear in any official record. Jaewon arrived exactly at 9, his men positioning themselves around the perimeter. Not close enough to eavesdrop, but close enough to intervene if things went wrong. Jiyoon was already there, sitting at a corner table with a cup of tea in front of her. She looked beautiful, she always did. Perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, makeup that cost more than most people's rent. She could have been a model or an actress instead of a mafia princess. She looked up when he approached, and her smile was sad. You came. You confessed to attempted murder. Of course I came. Have a seat. He did, keeping his hands visible on the table, his body angled so he could see both Jiyoon and the exits. Old habits. You want to know why I did it, Jiyoon said. It wasn't a question. I know why. You wanted to protect your family's interests. Eliminate competition. Standard operating procedure. No, her eyes flashed. You don't know. You think this was about politics and power, but it wasn't. It was about you. Me. I love you, Jaewon. The words came out fierce, passionate. I have for years. Since we were teenagers and my father first introduced us. Since you saved my brother from that kidnapping. Since you became everything I ever wanted in a man. Strong. Dangerous. Powerful. Mine. I was never yours. You were going to be. We were engaged. We had a future planned. And then this American woman shows up pregnant, and suddenly everything I worked for, everything I wanted, was threatened. Her voice cracked. So yes, I tried to remove the threat. I tried to protect what should have been mine. By murdering an innocent woman and an unborn child. By removing an obstacle. Jiyoon leaned forward, her eyes intense. You don't love her, Jaewon. You can't. She's nobody. A foreigner with no connections, no power, no understanding of our world. She'll only drag you down. She's everything to me. She's a fantasy. A rebellion against the life you were born into. But fantasies end, Jaewon. Reality is you and me, building an empire together. That's what was supposed to happen. It's not going to happen. I called off the engagement. It's over. It's not over until I say it's over. Jiyoon's hand moved under the table. Jaewon tensed, ready to react, but she just pulled out an envelope and slid it across. Open it. He did. Inside were photos. Amara leaving the hospital. Amara getting into a car. Amara through a rifle scope, the crosshairs centered on her head. His blood ran cold. If you hurt her. I'm not going to hurt her. But I could. Anytime I want. My people know where she is. They're watching her right now. One phone call from me, and she's dead before you can get back to her. Jaewon's hand went to his gun. Jiyoon smiled, cold and sharp. Go ahead. Shoot me. But my people have orders. If I don't check in every hour, they kill her. So really, what you should be doing is listening very carefully to what I'm about to say. He forced his hand away from the weapon. Forced himself to stay calm even though rage was boiling in his veins. I'm listening. Good. Jiyoon took a sip of her tea, casual as if they were discussing the weather. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to go through with the marriage. You're going to smile and play the devoted fiancé and join our families like we planned. And your American whore and her bastard child are going to disappear. Never. Let me finish. They'll disappear, but they'll live. I'll send them somewhere safe. Somewhere far from Seoul. She'll have money, security, everything she needs to raise the brat. But you'll never see them again. Clean break. Problem solved. You're insane if you think I'd agree to that. I'm practical. You get to keep your position, your power, everything you've built. She gets to live. The child gets to live. Everyone wins. Except me. Except I lose my family. You never had a family, J1. You had a mistake that you're too sentimental to correct. I'm offering you a way out. A way for everyone to survive this. He stared at her across the table and saw the truth in her eyes. She meant every word. She really believed this was a reasonable solution. That he should be grateful for her mercy. And if I refuse, he asked quietly, then she dies. The baby dies. And you live with that guilt for the rest of your life. Jiyoon leaned back, satisfied. So, what's it going to be, J1? Your family or your fantasy? 20 of their best fighters. They moved through the trees toward the estate, using the sunset as cover. The plan was simple. Infiltrate during the guard change. Get to the king's private quarters. End it quickly. Get out before reinforcements arrived. Simple. Not easy. They breached the outer wall without incident. Took out 3 guards silently. Made it to the main building. So far, so good. Too good. J1's instinct screamed that something was wrong, but they were committed now. No turning back. They moved through the corridors, following the route J1 had memorized from years of visits. The king's quarters were on the 3rd floor, East Wing. They climbed the stairs, weapons ready, every sense on high alert. The hallway was empty. Too empty. Where were the guards? Where was the security? They reached the king's door. J1 tried the handle. Unlocked. Trap. This was definitely a trap. But what choice did they have? He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The king sat at his desk, tea in hand, completely calm. Like he'd been expecting them. Behind him stood Park Sung-ho and a dozen armed guards. J1. The king smiled. Right on time. I was just telling Park Sen that you'd try something like this. He didn't believe me. Said you were smarter than that. J1 raised his gun, aimed it at the king's head. His men did the same, weapons trained on the guards. Standoff. You knew we were coming, J1 said. Of course. You're predictable when you're desperate. I've known you since you were a boy, J1. I know exactly how you think. Then you know I'm not leaving here without ending this. Oh, I know. Which is why I'm giving you one final choice. The king stood slowly. Put down your weapons. Accept your punishment for this rebellion. In exchange, I'll let the woman and child live. They'll be exiled from Korea, but alive. Or you try to kill me, fail, and watch everyone you love die slowly. Starting with your pregnant girlfriend. He nodded to one of his men, who held up a phone showing a video feed. J1's blood turned to ice. The feed showed Amara's car. Surrounded by armed men. Trapped. You think I didn't know she was in the car? The king asked. You think I don't have eyes everywhere? One word from me, and she dies. Along with your unborn son. Your loyal Minsuk. Everyone who followed you into this foolish rebellion. Don't miss what happens next. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when other videos drop. This story is about to reach its explosive conclusion, and you won't want to miss a single moment. Comment below with your predictions and show this video some love with a like.